Welcome to episode 40 of Sport SA Daily Diary. Today we're chatting to Swiss mountain biker and Absa Cape Epic champion, Ariane Lüthi. Good morning, Ariane. How are we doing today?
Morning. Very well, thank you. And you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. We're all the way in Switzerland. We've caught you today, huh?
Yes, that's correct. Raining today.
Oh, it's raining here too, so yeah, you can feel at home. How's the lockdown been treating you guys there? Bit more relaxed than here, I believe.
Yeah, we're very, very fortunate. I've been able to go outside. We can ride our bikes outside. We've kind of got the rule that not more than 5 people can be together. Those who don't share a household together can only or must obey 2 meters distance, and then obviously all the hand washing and height measurements like that.
Okay. Well, you're lucky that you guys can get outside. We're running around gardens and cycling on indoor trainers and all this ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
Ariane, you've had an amazing mountain biking career. Was it something that started young for you? I know you only turned pro at the age of 26, but were you always a rider growing up as a young girl, or were you doing other forms of sport? What is your background before turning pro?
I was always cycling as a mode of transport. I mean, I was cycling to school, but I wouldn't call myself a rider as such. I mean, here in Switzerland, it's just normal. Like every kid rides to school or rides to town and whatever. I started with a sport called handball, a little bit more, I would say, committed. It was the sport of my school. Every kid in my school played it basically, and I just want to be part of it. But that I only did a very short time. My family was very much into swimming. My dad was a swimming coach, and my older sister loved swimming always. And I first always kind of didn't want to join, and I hated water. Actually, I wasn't a good swimmer. But then my dad kind of made me join a training, and from there I became actually a swimmer. I did swimming competitively for about 8 years, and I then turned into a swimming coach myself. I coached swimming for more than 10 years. While I was studying as well, I was studying sports. So during my sports studies, I then started again to do all different kind of sports. I needed to do gymnastics, which I wasn't the most talented at, but it was really, really good skills training. Dancing was definitely also not my, how would I say, I wasn't the best at that, but yeah, you just had to go through all the sports. So I loved sport always. I always liked moving and being outside. And during my studies, I actually bought myself a road bike, and I started doing a bit of triathlon. Obviously, coming from a swimming background, you get in a good position out the water. And then I started cycling and running, and I did a bit of triathlon, but nothing too serious. It kind of turned a little bit more serious again. I just wanted to do this one triathlon in my hometown, which is a really long one. It took me, I finally did it in 2009. It was just below 11 hours that I finished. Lots of elevation, lots of climbing. But yeah, that's kind of where I started mountain biking, because it wasn't actually just a triathlon, but actually a quadrathlon, or how you would call that, because the cycling leg was split into road and mountain biking. So I had to start biking for that one, and that's how I got into the sport.
And was it love at first sight?
Pretty much, actually. Well, first, I mean, I was technically absolutely no way. Like literally, I was scared going down a gravel road. But then when I was training for this triathlon, we went into the mountains for a week, and I just really loved it, because being away from the roads, being away from the noise of the roads and the cars, being in the mountains and riding the trails, actually having a little bit of a technical challenge, I suddenly started to realize, oh wow, this is actually quite nice. Yeah, I absolutely loved being in those mountains outside there. It was absolutely beautiful. And yeah, then I was like, oh wow, this thing is actually pretty cool. So after the triathlon in 2009, I told myself, wow, I just really have to do just a mountain bike race. My cousins were at the time already very much into mountain biking. My one cousin, he was also a marathon racer. So I got a little bit of that, or I got a little bit of insight into it. So his sister then once took me to a mountain bike race, and that was my first mountain bike race.
And what year was that in exactly, Ariane?
That was 2009. So it was actually quite a funny story because that year I was finishing my master's thesis. So I was studying sport and I was just about to finish my thesis. It was a year of just sitting behind a computer, and I just had such an urge to move. That's why I was training for this long triathlon. I just, every second I wanted to go outside and move and get away from the desk, from sitting on a chair. And just after I handed in my thesis, on the day I flew to Nice to take part in the very legendary Rock d'Azur mountain bike race. My cousin there had it already planned, and she said, like, yeah, why don't you join? South of France was still very sunny and warm at that time. It was October, where Switzerland gets already a bit colder. So I slept maybe at the most 5 hours a night. I was just trying to edit the last bits of this thesis. I mean, I was working really like crazy just to finish this thing off for the deadline. And I was like, okay, I just need to move. I want to do this thing. So I flew down to Nice, basically went to bed at 11, 12 o'clock. And the next morning I went up at 6 and rode this race, and I absolutely loved it. It was so cool. It was, yeah. And it was a pretty, I mean, the Rock d'Azur, it's super famous in Europe. It's basically like, it was the ending race of the season where basically all the top riders came together again. We had a field of 200 women at the start line. I mean, just think about the number. 200 women is quite a lot. I mean, not even at a World Cup these days you have 200 women starting. Obviously, it was mixed amateurs and pros, but Gunrita Dahl was racing. I think Sabine Spitz was racing. Yeah, really like the top names at the time, you know. And it was funny, I actually remember my cousin said, like, oh, this is Gunrita Dahl, she was multiple world champion. And I could remember her well because she had this luminous green jersey from Merida back then. So she was very visible. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known these people. So, and in the race, I think she just came back from a baby break or something. So I actually, at one stage, overtook her. But it didn't last very long. In downhill, I had absolutely no chance.
And how did you feature in that race?
I think I came something around 30th at the end. So, I mean, nothing spectacular, but it was okay. I mean, I started way at the back, and yeah, I just had loads of energy to offload at that day, I think, just sitting on the chair for a week.
But Ariane, I mean, you've had a meteoric rise then in the sport from 2009, where you kind of just riding your first races and things, to 2013, where you became Swiss marathon champion for the first time. I mean, that's pretty incredible. And you know, you weren't a whippersnapper anymore. You were into your 20s by then.
Yeah, look, I mean, I trained really hard in swimming. So I would say in terms of endurance, and then also for those triathlons that I did, I mean, I trained a lot. So endurance wise, I was doing pretty well. And I would say even the sports studies, and I remember actually we had once a bike clinic in those studies. Yeah. I mean, I was really, really bad, and I hardly knew how to brake and whatever, and how to shift. But yeah, it taught me a lot of skills, I would say. I mean, doing gymnastics, I remember it was super hard, but it challenged you to learn skills really quickly. And I mean, those two things together probably weren't such a bad combination to pick up mountain biking pretty quickly. I mean, I definitely had huge potential in terms of skills. And I also need to add, you know, I mean, yes, you know, I did well, but the competition wasn't what it is now. I mean, very, very clearly, I have to say that it has developed tremendously. I mean, now that I can just feature somewhere near the front, I need to put so much effort into it. And I mean, I'm at a whole different level now than I was there. You know, to become Swiss champion now is so much harder than what it was back then. But yeah, I mean, what made a huge difference is that I turned pro, meaning I was probably always a bit under recovered when I was studying, working, and all those things together. And when I came to South Africa and got the chance to ride professionally, basically, I could basically leave all that stuff aside and focus on recovery very well. And I just basically, we raced every weekend, you know, and then you make quite a progression. I mean, being thrown into the deep end, racing every weekend as much as you can, you learn very quickly.
Yeah. And Ariane, tell us how that experience came about. Obviously, it was through Eric, but where did you guys meet? How did that discussion even sort of start?
I came to South Africa for the very first time in 2010. So 1 year after I basically started my first pure mountain bike race. A friend of mine from Switzerland asked me to do the Cape Pioneer with him. This friend of mine was my first sponsor, and he used to be the mechanic of Christoph Sauser. So he was my very first sponsor, giving me a really nice bike. So I joined him for South Africa. It was like this crazy experience. I mean, I haven't even had the time to read up on South Africa. I had no idea. I just, okay, cool, that sounds nice. Let me do this. Well, there you are in South Africa. And so we started a Pioneer together, and I think it was day 3. You know, it was crazy hot. I remember, I mean, I never experienced heat like this. Like literally, it was so crazy. The day before the race started, we just went for like an hour leg opener. And I mean, I drank like 2 full bottles in 1 hour. And I was like, how the hell am I going to get through a stage that's 140 Ks? It's going to be impossible. Yeah. So, I mean, like really, it was such an experience for me. So anyway, day 3, it was very early on. Somehow the bottle bumped out of my bike. I lost it. So I only had 1 bottle left, I think. And I ran out of water. And at one point, I was very desperate for water. I saw Eric standing next to I didn't know yet it was Eric, but it turned out to be Eric. A guy next to the road that was fixing his bike. I don't know what he had, but he was just standing there, and I saw he had water. So I asked him for his water, and he gave it to me, and later on we met, and that's how the story started.
Sure. Okay. Well, each story has a different beginning, and that's an interesting one. Had you heard of the Abs Cape Epic at that stage?
I think I did. I actually don't even remember really, because I was not, you know, like fully into cycling, following cycling. But I think it must have been mentioned to me. I think probably Paddy mentioned it to me about this race that is in March. And probably it came up also during the Cape Pioneer, but I didn't know at all like how big it was, what it really was. I mean, look, the Cape Pioneer in 2010 was hectic. We did the Ataquas plus 20 Ks as the first stage. I finished in like just under 7 hours, I think, that first stage, or maybe even just over 7 hours. I can't even remember. But like it was crazy. I mean, 143 Ks as an opening stage, and then it just kept going like 120 Ks every day, basically. Yeah. So I mean, you know, this thing was bloody hard, but I absolutely loved every minute of it. I just loved to ride my bike, and it couldn't have been hard enough or anything. I mean, yeah. But at that stage, I was so never-minded. I just rode my bike, and I didn't really care how it turned out. I had no pressure. I just had fun with it, you know.
Yeah. And then, Annika, 2013 was your first Absa Cape Epic as well. So not only were you Swiss champion, but you also won the mixed category at the Absa Cape Epic. Was that your first experience at the event?
No, actually, so in 2010, I came first to South Africa. I met Eric. Everything, just my whole life turned upside down very quickly. I mean, I was still a swimming coach. I was just riding casually as an amateur. And then I got this opportunity. Eric asked me to join his team so I could ride professionally. So it was like this crazy thing. And so I actually 2 months after I was the first time in South Africa, I moved to South Africa to stay with him. Yeah. And in 2011, we rode the first Cape Epic together. And yeah, I can't even tell. It was really, really crazy. I mean, I was not really a professional yet. I mean, I just started riding for a team. I had no idea what this epic really was. And Eric basically said, yeah, we're going to win this thing. I'm like, are you crazy? I mean, I just started cycling basically, or mountain biking. And you want me to beat Esther Sues, which was at the time Swiss champion, European champion, and world champion of 2010. And that was our competition. And I mean, the ones behind us weren't that bad neither. I mean, it wasn't just her that we were racing against. There were some other pretty strong girls racing in the mix at the time. So, I mean, we came second that year, and I absolutely turned myself inside out. I couldn't even write an email the next day. I was absolutely destroyed. Like on every level, mentally, physically. Yeah, I basically just needed to sleep for a day afterwards.
And Ariane, tell us about riding with Eric. I mean, it's the epic takes extraordinary fitness and strength and mental strength just as much as physical. And it often has a toll on partners. I've been in attendance at the epic for 6 years, and you see guys breaking down and screaming at each other and crying. And how did you guys manage it as a couple, a new couple, off the bike as well as now on the bike? It must have been a testing time for you guys.
I would actually say that the time right before the epic was probably the most testing, or it actually turned out to be ahead of every race, just the time before, when your nerves are so tense, and you just need to say there's one wrong word and it basically explodes, you know, where everyone is just so on the edge, with the pressure that's lying on you. During the race, I must say, we worked together extremely well. I mean, he really understood how to support me. He had a very good tactical sense. He followed a lot of road racing. He knew how to do teamwork, and I mean, he supported me really perfectly during the race. He did everything possible to make me stronger. And I mean, that's why we were so strong, because we really took the teamwork to another level, where I would say, yeah, sometimes, I mean, I also had to just say, yeah, look, we are stronger together. You need to help me as much as you can. So we kind of approach it from that side, where maybe not every team kind of used it as much as we did. I mean, he did slingshots. He pushed me where he could. On the climbs, I was leading, so I could find my pace, that I wouldn't overpace and kill myself. We really made a very good strategy how to bring the very best out of me in every second of the race.
And then the double A partnership came around, yourself and Annika. And I mean, that was it was a match made in heaven, and you guys were absolutely unbeatable. I remember one year, I think it was the second stage or something, you guys took a wrong turn, you got an hour penalty point, and 2 days later you were again in the lead. I mean, you guys were phenomenal together. Tell us a bit about that partnership and how that came about.
How it came about was actually at Marathon Worlds in 2013 in Austria. We ended up after the race celebrating Christoph Saus's victory, and Annika riding on a Specialized but not having ridden for Specialized yet. Also just joined the dinner where we were celebrating, and I was sitting right next to her, and I just took the chance, like, oh, that could be maybe something. I was already, it was already a possibility that we would ride on Specialized the next year. So I was kind of thinking ahead, oh yeah, Specialized rider, cool. Maybe that could work. But I mean, I didn't really know her. I was just accidentally sitting next to her. Obviously, I knew that she was very successful because she actually won 2011, my very first World Championship. And I think even 12. No, that was Conrita, but she was featuring in the top, let's say. So that's how it came about. And look, I mean, I need to honestly say everyone that can ride with her is very, very lucky, because she is just made for this race. And she is like the ultra domestique, if you want to say so. I mean, she has incredible power on the flat. So she could, I mean, I never had to do a turn in the front, basically. She was just pulling on the front like a motorbike. Plus, she is very, very intelligent. So she knows exactly also, I mean, she also turned her mind inside out to try and figure out how she could help me in each and every moment the best. And not just on a physical level, also on a mental level, that I would get a boost and pedal harder than I would. So she was, you know, she was someone who would rather let go of my back when she saw a camera coming than, you know, purposely pushing me to show how strong she was. So she would always kind of boost my own confidence versus like showing off how strong she was. So I mean, I just had such incredible respect, and I almost felt like it was made the partnership easy because our roles were very clear. She was clearly the stronger one, and there was no doubt ever like, okay, maybe once I need to be in front or whatever. So it was a very clear role that I had and she had, and it just worked really well together. I mean, also on a personal level, we got along very well. So it was really, really a pleasure. But then coming to how dominant we were, there I also need to add, look, I mean, it wasn't what it is now. Look, the women's field increases and the quality increases every year. In 2015, when we basically rode back that penalty, yes, we were strong. I mean, I must say I was on a very good level. She obviously was on a very good level. Yes, we were strong, but I mean, our closest competitors, it was Robin and Jenny at the time. Yeah. Robin had a virus that she was fighting, and basically everyone behind, Gunrita's partner fell out, Sally Bigham's partner was sick. I think Esther also had some problems herself even. So basically almost every other team had some health issues. Surely it's an aspect that also needs to, you know, you need to take care of as a rider, but sometimes you're just lucky or unlucky as well. So it may have looked like we were just absolutely crazy strong, but if everyone would have been at good health, I think it would have looked a little bit different.
Yeah, I think you're being slightly modest there, because I think you guys put them into that position in some form because of the strength of your team. So I mean, my personal opinion is that you guys pushed them so hard that's how they ended up, feeling unwell or getting into the state that they were. I mean, you guys were absolutely unmatched. And I still think today, if you guys rode today, you would still ride away from all the other teams. Yes, it's got stronger, but you guys were incredible. Ariane, what happened there? Why did you guys stop riding together?
Look, it's mostly due to sponsors. I mean, the year after our third victory, Annika picked up her studies again to finish her dentistry degree. So she sat one out, basically. That's how I had to look for a new partner. I was riding with Adelheid. Then the following year, I have to remember now. Oh, yes. Then actually it was Kate Courtney that wanted to race Epic. And then obviously them actually being together in a team just made sense, because Annika and I were never really together in a team. We were just riding the same equipment. So yeah, that basically stood in the way. And then I changed bike brand. So it's yeah, there's just more to it than just yeah, who you want to ride with. There's sponsors involved, etc. It gets a bit more complicated. And I mean, when Annika had the chance to ride with Anne van der Breggen, who wouldn't take that chance to ride with the Olympic road champion? I mean, yeah, then I'm a little bit further down the ranks. So
slightly modest there. Ariane, what does the future hold for you? Obviously, 2018, you won Attakwas, which is again no mean feat. You've been 5 times Epic champion. You've been 5 times Swiss champion. What more is there for you to achieve?
Well, look, I mean, Worlds is really the one thing I still have a little bit unfinished business. No, not unfinished business. It's just something that, yeah, I really want to do well on. I've been 4th twice, I think twice 5th. Yeah, this podium, to step onto that podium would be really, really amazing. Possible still. I mean, it's getting harder and harder. The young generation is coming through and also doing more marathons. It's really incredibly hard to keep up with those. I mean, I started only with 26 to make up that time where others have started with 10. It's really, really difficult. I can only kind of do it with experience and just working crazy hard. So it's incredibly difficult, but that makes it even more exciting and even more challenging. And I mean, it would be even more rewarding if then it would be possible to make it come true. So it's like the one thing, like that prospect of taking part in a world championship, measure myself against the very top women in the sport. Yeah, that's what pushes me every day on the bike, to just improve, just to become better every day.
Yeah, well, you're certainly a folklore here in South Africa. You are a champion of all the races, and we love having you here. So we look forward to seeing you back on a bike here. In closing, Ariane, do you have advice for young riders? Obviously, you started a bit late, but do you have advice that would help them get to the top of the game, like you have yours?
Yeah, I think very important is to have a long-term plan, not to plan early for this 1 year. Give it all in 1 year. I mean, like I said, I started early with 26, and I mean, a lot of the girls, the youngsters that ask me this question, they are like 15 or even younger. They've probably got more than 20 years ahead of them. So you actually need to look at that and just really keep the motivation up for as long as possible. And that means you need to have a good balance in life. And that's definitely something I didn't follow enough in my first years. I always felt like I had to make up these this 15, 20 years that I was missing, you know, and just squeeze it into the first 5 years of my career, which, I mean, I had a burnout after the first 3 seasons I was being a professional, and I almost quit my career. You know, it shouldn't be like that. You should always have a bit of motivation left at the end of the season to continue, and you mustn't forget your education. It's really, really important. I can say that I was in a situation where I was really, really happy to have some sort of degree, because life just didn't turn out the way I would have liked to. And also just have your friends. I mean, sport can absorb you so much that you forget everything around you, and the people that give you some support are very, very important in your life.
Yeah. Oh, that's great advice. Ariane, it's been brilliant chatting to you today on Sport SA Daily Diary. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Good luck with your training. Good luck with the lockdown. And we look forward to seeing you back here in South Africa very soon.
Thank you. All the best. Greetings to South Africa.
You too. Cheers.
Bye.
Don't forget to join us again tomorrow on Sport SA Daily Diary, where we'll be chatting to 3 times Comrades Marathon winner, Bongamusa Mthembu.